dumpster diving for food, where to go dumpster diving, and is it even legal? These are the three things we're going to talk about today. So first off, dumpster diving for food. Your best bet is going to be these like second tier grocery stores like Aldi's, Price Right, Save a Lot, the places where it's less likely that they're going to have a compactor and they're going to have an accessible dumpster that you can get into. This time of year in the winter is great because the world's just a giant refrigerator or freezer, and you don't have to worry as much about stuff going bad after it's been thrown in the dumpster. Dumpster diving for food, you just got to use your common sense. If it's produce, does it look bad? Does it smell bad? If so, don't eat it. But a really common thing to happen is one apple in a bag goes bad, so they got to throw the whole 5-pound bag. Or if it's prepackaged, like shelf-stable food, the typical reason it's thrown out is the packaging got slightly damaged, or it's past the best by date, and there's somebody who goes around in those stores on a regular basis pulling off all the produce that has started to look bad, or if something has hit the best by date or close to it, and it all goes in a bag, and 1 hour it's in the store and you can buy it, and the next hour it's sitting in the dumpster in a garbage bag or box, and it's taboo and you can't have it anymore. Another place to go for food is pharmacies, because people don't really shop at pharmacies for food most of the time anyway. It's just kind of there as like an impulse buy for the most part, and so a lot of stuff expires and goes bad, and same thing, somebody goes around, pulls all that stuff off the shelf and tosses it in the garbage. So they, your CVS, your Rite Aid, your Walgreens, and even like the smaller local chains or independent stores can be good to check out. Food distributors who distribute stuff to like gas stations, if those retail stores can't sell the potato chips or whatnot, then it goes back to the distributor for a credit and it gets tossed out. There's several distributors around here in Buffalo that I stop at, and every other time the dumpster's just like completely full of potato chips or expired Milano cookies. I would just search food distributor in your city and go check those places out. It's typically going to be like a big warehouse and kind of a big industrial or warehouse complex. Now, if you're worried about recalls, here's my thoughts on the matter. If you actually go to the FDA website and look at all of the recalls, here's the breakdown. Most of them are for vitamins or supplements that have improper doses, or it's meat or salads that have like salmonella or some kind of problem like that. And then packaged foods, it's typically they might have a bolt might have come off in the production of the food. Somebody found it and they just are going to blanket recall everything that was produced on that line in the last 2 weeks just to be safe. And it's actually pretty rare for a shelf-stable product to have a recall in the US. And when it does happen, it gets a lot of publicity, which is a good thing. But I think that publicity leads people to think that recalls are happening all the time, which isn't necessarily the case. And I really do think with the dumpster diving for food that the recall risk is a bit overblown. And of course, if you want to be safe, you should just look it up and do a quick Google search and make sure it isn't recalled. In terms of like what's actually in the dumpster, if it is a mix of different products, different brands, then they're typically just pulling that off because it hit the best by date. It's when you see an entire dumpster full of a single product when you do have to worry more about the recall risk. And at the end of the day, dumpster diving for food isn't for everybody. You just got to use your common sense. We've evolved over millions of years to be able to take a sniff of something and realize, hey, that's not any good. I don't want to eat that. So just use that. That's your first line of defense. And if it looks off, don't eat it. But there's so much food out there. Like we could eat 100% out of the dumpsters and feed a family of 12 easily. So what do we do with all the food? A lot of times we'll eat it ourselves, but if it's shelf-stable stuff that just hit the expiration date, I put it on the street here, like between the sidewalk and the curb, and my neighbors help themselves, right? and it helps us make a lot of good friends with our neighbors. And when people see us putting stuff out, they come running. You know, it just warms my heart all the time when somebody says, hey, I grabbed a couple boxes of those goldfish crackers and brought them to my church. You know, it saves some of my neighbors a little bit of money that they keep in their pocket for something else that's, you know, maybe more important. So one thing that does happen on occasion, and you might have seen like news stories about this, is when the freezers fail at like a Target or an Aldi's, and all of a sudden they've got to take every single item that they have in their freezers and chuck it in a dumpster. I've had probably a half dozen finds like that over my years of diving. You know, we had like 4 or 5 months worth of cold brew coffee, limeade, just tons of orange juice and stuff that like if you at home left it out on the counter overnight, you know, you wouldn't get down there and be like, oh, this is done, tossed, we gotta toss it, it's bad. Or Aldi's, their pre-prepared food section, freezer failed, and they tossed it all, and it was like those little packets of nuts and cheese and sausages. And same thing, that stuff got so much preservatives in it that, you know, you could leave that out for a couple of days and it's gonna be fine. The only time that I've ever actually gotten sick eating out of a dumpster was I ate some questionable raspberries from the DoorDash dumpster, and that doubled me over for a day or two. But I'd say, you know, from 15 years of eating out of a dumpster, getting sick one time is really not so bad. Second topic, where to go dumpster diving. And I covered some of the places for food, but we'll cover now retail plazas. You know, this is where you've got all your big box stores all in a row, and there might be like a Target and a Walmart, but there's little places interspersed in there like a Marshall's or a TJ Maxx or a Golf Galaxy, and those kind of smaller places under 10,000 square feet retail are more likely to have an accessible dumpster, whereas the Target and Walmart are just going to have a compactor you can't get into. And what you'll find in those retail dumpsters is returned items. A lot of times it's just not worth it for the store to try to resell it. It's too much of a risk or something. And they just have a big box of returns that once it's full up, they just throw it in the dumpster, and you'll find that. Or product that gets damaged in the store or prior to delivery, or somebody breaks open a pack of razors in the store and takes one. Well, they're not going to make the effort to try to break up that pack and sell them, you know, at a discount. It's just, you know, apparently not worth their time, so they're just going to toss it in a dumpster, and you might find it. I thought Bub might be asleep. The other advantage of these big retail plazas is the dumpsters are going to be a lot closer together, so you can hit a lot in one time, because for dumpster diving, really it's a numbers game. If you go peek in one dumpster, probably not going to have much good stuff in it, but you got to check, you know, 20, 30, 40 dumpsters in a night at least, and by sticking with these retail plazas, you're going to be able to check a lot at once. The other thing to look out for behind the stores is big roll-off dumpsters with the open tops, because even the big box stores will get these probably every 6 months, because there's stuff that they can't fit into their compactor, like big displays or mannequins, which I find all the time at Target. And then once they have those big roll-offs, a lot of the employees just start using that instead of the compactor, so you might actually find some actual store product in those dumpsters. The other thing common is these big store remodels, and they'll have another roll-off dumpsters or series of roll-off dumpsters staged outside, and you'll find a ton of construction materials in there, kind of all the way through the demolition to the new build out. And so you'll find wood and metal and wire, and, you know, I honestly want to build a house one day out of all that construction material. I swear I could do it, and it'd be a sick, epic YouTube video. What's next after retail plazas? Warehouse complexes and industrial centers. A lot of these retail stores have been dying, going out of business, which can be a good score, you know, one time, but the e-commerce is moving online. And that online e-commerce operates out of these big warehouse complexes. You know, you go on Google Maps and zoom out, you can kind of see them all over the place in any metro area. And just head over there cruise around, look for some accessible dumpsters. They're less likely to have the compactors in my experience. And when they throw out product, they throw out a lot of it. It could be, you know, a whole pallet's worth of stuff dumped in there. And same thing that applies to the retail plazas applies to the commercial areas, is you're going to have a lot of dumpsters close together so you can check them pretty quick. And they'll have those open top dumpsters as well. That's where they typically, you know, tip the whole pallets of product into. And really just those roll off open top dumpsters, anytime I see one, I'm stopping and looking in, because it just means whoever got it, whether it's a retail store, private residence, a warehouse, it just means they're throwing out a ton of stuff, and there's a good chance there might be some good stuff in there. So you just got to have that dumpster radar on for those open tops, and definitely stop if you see one. You know, some niche places to stop would be colleges at the end of spring semester when all the kids are moving out. That's always epic. That's how I met my wife, actually, back in 2009. I won't get too much into that because it's just like one time a year. Oh man, the sun has really come out. It's starting to get warm here. I apologize in advance for my messy hair. Once I realize I need to get a haircut, it takes me about a month and a half before I finally go. Is she sleeping yet? Do we see closed eyeballs? Daddy walk nap time. Yeah, I can see her head lolling back and forth. We'll just take it easy. Oh, there she goes. There, she's awake. Then you've got curb picking, which is very closely related to dumpster diving, which is just, you know, piles of stuff that private residences or sometimes businesses put out. This is huge for me right now because I don't get to go dumpster diving very much anymore because of this little one. But guess what? We do these big long walks and we find a lot of stuff that, you know, I would probably just drive by in the truck. Because I'm walking, I can inspect it a little more, and we've found some really, really good stuff together. At least in our city, we have bulk trash day 2 times a year, and we have 9 districts. So that works out to 18 weeks of bulk trash where we can go around and look through these big, huge piles of scrap metal, for stuff we can sell on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, or just your typical garbage day. I'll make it a point to kind of take the different way to work, where I go down a lot of residential streets so I can see the different piles people are putting out. You know, especially in the spring when people are getting that cleaning mood, there's more and more stuff available. Okay, finally we're getting to the legality question of dumpster diving. And this is like a very controversial topic. It's like one of the most discussed things in the comments is, that's illegal. No, it's not. I've got every right to do this. Look at this law, this law, this law. And what I'll say is it's very local, and it's almost a cultural thing. You know, here in Buffalo, city of good neighbors, if somebody sees me in a dumpster and they don't want me there, they're more likely to come out and just say, hey, get out of this dumpster, get out of here, instead of actually calling the cops. Now, in like Florida, Texas, I just see it in my comments, people saying, try this in Florida, you're going to get, you know, you'll get shot, you know, you'll get screwed. Maybe that's a bit extreme, but people will, on first instinct, call the police and not come out and say, hey, you got to leave. But there's really no specific law anywhere that says dumpster diving is illegal or dumpster diving is legal. It just isn't like a term that you'll find in any kind of law on the books. There's a Supreme Court case where the police dug through somebody's trash and the person fought that, and the determination was like, once you put it in the trash, you don't have any expectation of privacy. I think that's narrow. You know, that probably covers the police. You know, does that cover me going through somebody's trash, whether it's on the side of the street or in a dumpster? I don't know. If somebody actually gets like charged for some kind of offense, it's always like settled out of court, or somebody pleads guilty. There's just isn't a lot of like actual case law about specifically dumpster diving. And maybe I'm wrong about that. If you know of some cases, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to know. I really would. But at the end of the day, most of these dumpsters are going to be on private property. So you have to deal with trespassing. And even trespassing is kind of a confusing thing, because I've heard 2 different things. One is you have to be trespassed, which means you're on somebody's property, they ask you to leave, you're trespassed, and if you come back, then it's trespassing. Or, you know, they can just call the cops show up, say, this guy's on my property, he's trespassing, and the cops just, you know, give you a ticket or arrest you for trespass. It's really at the discretion, I think, of the police, and then they let the attorneys and the DA figure out whether it was like actually by the book or not. So I have a trespassing charge unrelated to dumpster diving. And when I was in my 20s, I went fishing at this pond with a few friends. The pond was supposedly owned by, a friend of one of those friends. And we walked up the driveway to say hello to the guy. And it turns around and it's not Frank. It's some guy we don't know. And he starts getting all pissed off. I can't believe people are on my property again. I'm so sick of this. And we're like, sorry, man. We didn't know. We thought Bob still owned this place. We'll leave. We'll get out of here. And we did. But the guy took the license plate number of my buddy, and the Department of Environmental Conservation here in New York drove from Ellicottville to Buffalo, which is like a hour and a half drive, to interview all of us for this horrible crime that we committed. Then we had to go down to Ellicottville and Toad Hollow Town Court and try to argue our case with the judge. My friend was kind of explaining what happened, and the judge goes, if you keep talking, I'm going to up the fine. And I said, sir, this was just a mistake. There's no harm done. And he said, okay, do you want a higher fine too? So we just shut our mouths, and he wrote us $175 tickets, and that was that. Some people are, kind of scared of getting confronted and caught dumpster diving. But I honestly, I kind of relish it. Like, if somebody comes out and it gives you kind of an opportunity to confront them about the waste, I'm not going to chew them out or anything. I'm avoiding confrontation at all costs. Like, if they want me to leave, I'll leave. But it's just simple questions like, oh, why do you guys throw this stuff out? Why, is there any, organizations that you could possibly donate this stuff to? If it's something that is valuable that I think I could resell, I'll say hell, I'll leave, but what if I paid you for this stuff in the dumpster? And it just kind of flips it in their head. They thought this was waste, and now this guy's offering to pay for it. What's going on here? Should I not be throwing this out? They never accept, but it's just fun to see the gears turning in somebody's head. I have had a handful of interactions with the police out dumpster diving. Just about 9 months ago, it was nighttime, and I was in a commercial area, and there was a dumpster just half full of sprinkler pipe. So I started chucking it out of the dumpster, making a lot of noise, admittedly. And somebody in the building called 911, and the cops came. And just as I was out leaving, actually, I loaded up, just leaving. And the cop asked me what I'm doing. Oh, I'm just being honest. I'm doing some dumpster diving right now. There was some scrap metal in that dumpster, so I just grabbed that. He goes back, starts looking, in the bed of my truck. He asks me, what about this? What about that? And then the owner of the business comes out and starts talking to the cop. And he comes over and starts talking to me. And the funny thing is, I kind of know this guy. He doesn't know it, but I know of him. And it was because he was in the midst of selling his business, and that's why there was a bunch of good stuff in the dumpster. And my brother-in-law is looking for a new warehouse and had looked at this place a couple months ago. So I was like, hey, my brother-in-law Cliff with Triple S, he was here, a couple months ago. I go, oh yeah, Cliff. Oh yeah. And it totally diffused the whole situation. And the guy actually ended up inviting me in for a tour, and I ended up buying a couple pallets of boxes from him for my other business. And that's one way I was able to kind of turn it around. Another time, a Amherst police officer rolled up when I was dumpster diving at Office Depot, and there was some good stuff in there. I think a couple of chairs and some food. What are you doing back here? I'm like, well, they're throwing all this stuff out, so I just grabbing it to donate or resell or whatnot. And he was just concerned that I was illegally dumping something in the dumpster, which is extremely common. And once he realized, I wasn't doing any dumping, he just says, okay, carry on, have a nice day, and drove away. All right, I'm about to call it. We're getting close to home here. I think Bubby's waking up. If you like this longer kind of meandering chat about dumpster diving style of video, please let me know, and I'll keep doing more of them. I'm trying to lower the barrier to entry of doing these long form videos, because I've kind of not been doing them in the past, because I think I have to write this long script and go shoot in all these different locations and then edit it together for days. But really, I just want to provide some value to everybody out there who dumpster dives themselves or wants to get into it. Is an easier way for me to do it. So thanks for sticking around, and have a good one.